May 17th, 1944. Anzio beachhead, Italy. Asterisk, asterisk. Gefreiter Werner Kappel is lying in a crater with an MG-42 that's been firing continuously for 7 minutes. The barrel glows dull red in the pre-dawn darkness. Standard doctrine says, change the barrel every 250 rounds. He's fired 1,100. The gun should have seized 4 minutes ago. Allied infantry are 80 meters away and closing. He has no backup barrel, no reinforcements. And somehow, impossibly, his gun is still firing at 1,200 rounds per minute, while every other MG-42 on the line went silent 3 minutes ago from thermal lock. The mathematics are simple. 94% of machine gunners in exposed positions during massed infantry assaults die within the first 10 minutes. He's at minute 7. His ammunition belt has maybe 200 rounds left. The attackers number approximately 120 men. He'll run dry in exactly 10 seconds. The nearest friendly position is 340 meters behind him, too far to run, too far to matter. He should already be dead. But Werner Kappel is about to hold this crater for another 18 minutes, because in the next 48 seconds, he's going to do 3 things that violate every page of the MG-42 operating manual. Pour a full canteen of water mixed with axle grease directly into the receiver while firing. Manually cycle the bolt with his bare hand during a jam. And fire 2,800 more rounds through a barrel that's technically already failed. All because 6 months ago, in a freezing forest in Ukraine, he discovered something about metal expansion that the engineers at Mauser never wrote down. Werner Kappel, born February 3rd, 1922, in Essen, son of a machinist at the Krupp Steelworks. At age 12, he spent an entire summer taking apart his father's lathe because he wanted to understand why the bearings never seized when the machine ran hot. His father came home one evening to find every component laid out on the workshop floor in perfect order. Werner looked up and said, "The oil channels are wrong in the manual." His father checked. The boy was right. Some people are born understanding the relationship between heat and friction in metal. But to understand how he kept a gun firing that should have welded itself shut, you need to know what made him different. Asterisk, asterisk, October 1942. Wehrmacht Training Facility, Grafenwöhr, Bavaria, asterisk, asterisk, Werner, arrives for basic training 3 weeks after conscription. He's 5'7", 142 pounds, wears wireframe glasses that fog in the cold. The drill instructor assigns him to signals anything but combat. On day 4, weapons qualification rotates through. Werner picks up the MG-34. The instructor demonstrates loading once. Werner loads it, fires, stops, disassembles the bolt carrier group, reassembles it with 3 parts in different positions, and fires again. The cyclic rate increases from 900 to 1,050 rounds per minute. The instructor stares. "What did you do?" Werner adjusts his glasses. "The recoil spring was binding on the buffer. I reversed the tension angle." The instructor checks the manual. There's nothing about tension angles. Werner scores 96 out of 100 on marksmanship, gets assigned to a machine gun platoon. He writes home, "They gave me the loud one." Asterisk, asterisk, January 1943. Eastern Front, Kursk sector, asterisk, asterisk, temperature, -28 Celsius. The MG-42 seconds are freezing. The oil congeals. Bolts move like swimming through tar. Standard procedure is warming guns over fires. Werner's squad leader orders him to prep his weapon. Werner doesn't light a fire. He takes the gun apart completely and wipes every surface clean of oil. Bone dry. The squad leader says, "That's insane, the gun will seize." Werner reassembles it dry. 12 hours later, Soviet infantry attack. Every MG-42 on the line jams within the first minute. Every gun except Werner's. His fires 840 rounds before the attack breaks. 0 malfunctions. The The squad leader asks him to explain. Werner says, "Steel on steel generates its own lubricant at high speed. It's called friction welding. You just have to start it right." Gets promoted to Obergefreiter. He writes home, "They let me keep the loud one. Asterisk, asterisk, April 1943. Ukraine, west of Kharkiv. Asterisk, asterisk. His unit retreats through muddy spring roads. Werner's truck hits a crater and shears its rear axle. The MG-42 falls into the mud submerged, completely fouled. Standard procedure. Abandon it." Werner refuses. He pulls the gun out and starts cleaning. His squad leader says they're moving in 3 minutes. Werner doesn't respond. He's looking at the axle grease leaking from the broken truck. Thick, petroleum-based, designed for extreme pressure. He scoops a handful and works it into the receiver assembly, the bolt carrier, the feed mechanism. His squad leader says that's automotive lubricant, it'll gum up the works. Werner reassembles the gun in 90 seconds. 6 hours later, his gun fires 1,200 rounds during a 3-hour engagement, 0 malfunctions. The barrel stays cooler than the others. After, Werner disassembles it. The axle grease has carbonized into a slick black coating inside the receiver. Heat-resistant, friction-reducing. He writes home, "Found better oil. Don't tell anyone." Asterisk, asterisk, August 1943. Southern Italy, coastal defense. Asterisk, asterisk. It's 38 degrees Celsius. The MG-42 seconds overheat during training drills. Standard barrel change. Every 250 rounds. They're burning through barrels like ammunition. Werner starts experimenting. He mixes axle grease with water, 50/50 ratio, and applies it to the barrel extension before firing. The water flash cools the metal. The grease maintains lubrication. During training, he fires 600 rounds without changing barrels. The gun stays functional. His company commander calls him in. "That's not in the manual," Werner says. "The manual was written in Germany. It's not 38 degrees in Germany." The commander asks if it works. Werner says yes. The commander tells him to keep it quiet. Modifications aren't authorized. Werner nods. He doesn't write home about this one. Asterisk, asterisk, February 1944. Anzio beachhead. Asterisk, asterisk. The Allies have landed. Werner is assigned to a forward crater deliberately exposed, designed to break assault formations. Average life expectancy, 11 minutes during assault. He's allowed 1 MG-42, 3,000 rounds, 2 barrels. He requests axle grease from the motor pool. The supply sergeant asks why. Werner says, "It's for the gun." The sergeant says, "That's not authorized lubricant." Werner takes it anyway. Spends 3 days preparing digging drainage, setting sight lines, pre-mixing his grease-water compound in canteens. On February 16th, Allied forces begin probing attacks. Werner's position gets tested twice. He fires 400 rounds each time. Gun performs flawlessly. By May 1944, Werner Kappel had fired approximately 12,000 rounds through modified MG-42 seconds using unauthorized lubricants. 7 major engagements, never lost a position. Never had a catastrophic weapon failure. His modification reduced barrel temperature by an estimated 15% and extended firing time by 40%. None of this was in any manual. None approved by any officer above company level. But nothing would compare to what happened next. May 17th, 1944, Anzio beachhead. 0447 hours. This is how he did it. Werner is alone because his assistant gunner is dead. Killed 4 hours ago during artillery preparation. The body is 15 feet away. Werner has the gun, the ammunition, 2 canteens of his grease mixture, and standard equipment. The MG-42 is set up on its bipod, aimed down a shallow draw, a 40-meter wide killing zone. He zeroed at 100 meters, counted his ammunition, 3,200 rounds in belts. He knows the math. At 1,200 rounds per minute sustained fire, that's 2 minutes 40 seconds, but he won't get continuous. He'll get bursts interrupted by reloading, barrel changes, mechanical issues. Standard doctrine says 6 minutes if he's good and lucky. The attack starts at 0447 with no warning. American infantry come up the draw in a skirmish line, approximately 120 men, moving fast, using pre-dawn darkness. Werner waits until they're at 80 meters, opens fire. The MG-42 sounds like ripping canvas. First burst, 30 rounds, 3 seconds. 7 men go down. The line falters, hits the dirt. They return fire. Werner traverses left, fires again. 20 rounds. Traverses right, 15 rounds. He's not aiming at individuals, he's filling the corridor with metal. After 90 seconds, he's fired 340 rounds. The barrel is already heating. Normal procedure says, change it now. He doesn't. He pours 2 ounces of grease mixture directly onto the barrel extension while the gun is mounted. It sizzles, smokes, forms a dark coating. Temperature stabilizes. The Americans regroup and push, this time with suppressive fire BAR, Thompson. Rounds crack past Werner's head. He hunkers and keeps firing. 6-second bursts now. The gun's rhythm becomes his heartbeat. Fire, traverse, reload. At minute 4, his first barrel reaches critical temperature. Standard procedure, swap barrels. The spare is underneath the dead assistant gunner. He'd have to leave the gun, cross 15 feet under fire, retrieve it, minimum 15 seconds. The Americans are 60 meters away. He calculates. The barrel hasn't seized yet. His grease mixture is working. He stays on the gun, fires another 200 rounds. At minute 5, the barrel begins to droop. Not much, maybe 5 degrees, but his point of impact shifts high. He's firing over their heads. The metal is warping from heat. He has maybe 30 seconds before complete failure. This is when he does the thing he's only theorized about. He stops firing, grabs the second canteen, 70% water, 30% grease, pours the entire contents into the receiver while the bolt is forward. Water hits superheated metal and flashes to steam. Grease liquefies, flows into every gap. For 3 seconds, nothing. Then Werner pulls the charging handle and manually cycles the bolt with his bare hand. The metal raises blisters through his gloves. The bolt moves. He releases it, chambers around, pulls the trigger. The gun fires. The barrel has straightened thermal shock, reversed the warp. He's back in action. At minute 6, the belt feeds crooked. Standard malfunction. The gun jams round 10 degrees off axis. Werner doesn't follow procedure. The Americans are 50 meters away. He keeps the trigger depressed and manually works the charging handle 3 times. It's called a hot clear forcing mechanical cycle under spring tension. It can shear the extractor. It can break the bolt. It works. The crooked round ejects. Next round, chambers straight. 10 seconds lost. At minute 7, metal belt links start failing from vibration. They're heating, expanding, not separating cleanly, jamming the feed throat. Werner has 2 options: stop and relink by hand, 60 seconds, or clear each malfunction as it happens. He chooses continuous clearing. For 90 seconds, the gun jams every 15 rounds. Each time, charging handle back, bad link out, forward, resume fire. His hands blur. The Americans are 40 meters away. He can hear them shouting. At minute 8:30, the belt feed pawl loses tension. The spring has overheated, gone soft. The belt stops feeding automatically. Standard procedure. Gun deadlined. Requires armorer repair. Werner pulls a cleaning rod from his pouch and jams it into the feed mechanism as a manual pawl. He operates the gun one-handed while manually feeding with the other. Rate drops to 200 rounds per minute, 1/6 normal but still firing. The Americans see the stutter and push harder. At minute 10, The receiver housing reaches critical temperature. The grease mixture cooks off sharp, acrid smell. Without lubrication, the bolt will seize in 30 seconds. Werner has no more mixture. He works up saliva and spits into the receiver. Half an ounce of liquid buys 20 seconds. Then he tears open a field dressing cotton bandage with iodine and stuffs it into the receiver. Cotton acts as a wick. Iodine provides minimal lubrication. It's insane. It works. For 40 more seconds. At minute 11, the barrel glows bright cherry red, approximately 900 degrees Celsius, approaching melting point of 1,100 degrees, maybe 100 rounds left before catastrophic failure. The Americans are 30 meters away. Werner makes his decision. Shoot until the barrel fails. No cooling, no change, because stopping means dying. At minute 12, Werner grabs his last belt. 250 rounds, maybe 15 seconds sustained. He has 120 attackers. The math doesn't work. But Werner knows. Machine gun fire isn't about hitting every target. It's about the sound. The continuous scream creates panic. As long as the gun fires, the attack slows. He switches to 2-round bursts. Traverse, fire. The gun stutters like a typewriter. Each burst takes half a second. 62 bursts. 2 minutes, maybe. At minute 13, Werner hears a metallic ping. Something inside has broken. He feels it in the trigger, a hitch in the cycle. He keeps firing. The ping becomes clicking. Based on feel, the bolt carrier is cracked. It's propagating with each cycle. Eventually it will shear, and the gun will explode. Werner has no spare parts, no options except keep firing and hope. At minute 14, the trigger won't reset. It stays pulled. The linkage has welded from heat. Werner reaches underneath and manually pushes the trigger sear forward with one finger while pulling with the other, double clutching. The gun fires. Each shot requires two-handed operation. Rate drops to 100 rounds per minute, still firing. At minute 15, the belt stops feeding completely. The last link has twisted 90 degrees and jammed solid. Werner has 80 live rounds he can't fire. The Americans are 20 meters away. 4 seconds before they're on him, Werner rips the belt free, grabs the loose end, manually chambers the first round by hand, pulls the trigger, fires once, hand chambers the next. He's turned the MG-42 into a bolt-action rifle, 3 seconds per shot. Load, fire, load, fire. The attackers take cover because as long as it's shooting, they can't tell it's broken. At minute 16, Werner is down to 12 rounds. His hands are burnt. The bolt clicks on every shot. The barrel glows white-hot. He's hand-cycling like a pump action. The Americans are 15 meters away, pinned in craters. 1,200 rounds from a single gun broke their momentum. But Werner knows. 12 rounds left, 90 attackers. When he's empty, they'll charge. He's dead. He chambers round 11. Fires. It goes high barrel warped 10 degrees off axis. He compensates. Chambers round 12, the last round. After this, rifle, pistol, 2 grenades. Not enough. He aims at the largest concentration. Squeezes the trigger. The gun fires. The bolt cycles. Then something impossible. Another round chambers. He looks down. The feed throat is empty. But there's a round in the chamber. The one that jammed at minute 6. It's been sitting in the receiver, lost in the mechanisms, waiting. He fires it. Round 13. The lucky round. And as if the universe confirms something, he hears it. Artillery. Friendly artillery. The whistle of incoming rounds. Someone called fire support. Shells start falling 50 meters forward, danger close. The American attack breaks. Werner releases the trigger. The gun clicks once and goes silent. The bolt carrier has sheared. The barrel is bent 15 degrees. The receiver is cracked. The trigger is fused. Every part is beyond repair. But it lasted. 18 minutes, 13 seconds, 2,847 rounds through a barrel rated for 1,100. He sits back. His hands shake. He's not scared that comes later. Right now he's counting. 18 minutes. 7 minutes longer than average survival. 2,597 more rounds than rated capacity. One impossible thing that actually happened. The squad leader arrives 10 minutes later with reinforcements, finds Werner sitting next to a melted gun, asks if he's wounded. Werner says no. The squad leader looks at the casings, the dead in the draw, asks how many rounds. Werner says he stopped counting at 2,500. The squad leader does the math. That's not possible. The gun should have seized. Werner adjusts his bent glasses and says, I used different oil. The squad leader doesn't ask details, just says, You held. Werner nods. I held. Within 6 hours, every commander on the Anzio line hears the story. The numbers get bigger. 3,000 rounds, 4,000 rounds, 30 minutes. None accurate, all believed because the evidence exists, the burnt gun, the casings, the dead. Werner's company commander inspects the weapon with an armorer. They disassemble it in the crater. The armorer asks about the carbonized grease. Werner says automotive lubricant with water. The armorer says that's not authorized. The commander asks, Did it work? Werner says yes. The commander tells the armorer to write it down. The armorer protests, It's not in the manual. The commander says, Write it anyway. The report reads, Gefreiter Kappel employed field expedient lubrication during extended engagement. Results: effective. Recommend further testing. Werner gets recommended for the Iron Cross, first class. The citation: exemplary defensive action against numerically superior forces and extraordinary technical proficiency under fire. On June 2nd, 1944, 16 days after, he receives the medal at company formation. The division commander pins it and says, The gun held because you held. Werner salutes. Thank you, sir. His squad leader asks how he feels. Werner says his hands still hurt. The squad leader says that's not what he means. Werner shrugs. I did what worked. Other machine gunners ask about his lubricant mixture. Werner explains. Axle grease, water, 50/50, applied during sustained fire. Several try it. Mixed results. Some guns run cooler, some jam from water-induced rust. Werner realizes it requires specific timing. Too much water causes corrosion. Too little doesn't cool. It's not universal. It's a specific tool for specific situations. Most give up. Too complicated. Werner keeps using it. ***, September 8th, 1944, Gothic Line, Northern Italy. ***, Werner's unit holds a mountain pass. Intelligence reports an American battalion attacking within 48 hours. Approximately 800 men against 140 defenders. Werner, now Feldwebel, gets the center position. He has one MG-42, 6,000 rounds, 4 barrels. He spends 36 hours preparing, mixing 3 canteens of compound, pre-staging barrels with water cooling stations, calibrating for 220-meter range. The attack starts September 10th at 0615. Werner opens fire at 0617. 800 attackers in a 60-meter wide space. He shoots controlled bursts 15 rounds, traverse. 20 minutes before ammunition exhaustion, but he doesn't need to stop them. He needs to slow them. Buy time for artillery, reinforcements, coordination. At minute 12, American mortars hit his position. His ammunition bearer dies. His assistant gunner takes shrapnel, wounded but functional. Werner keeps firing. 14 minutes, 16, 18. At minute 19, friendly artillery lands in the pass. The attack breaks. Werner fires his last burst at minute 21. Total rounds, 2,100. Barrels used, 3. Malfunctions, 2. Cleared in under 5 seconds. Time bought, 21 minutes. Enough. His commander visits after. Sees the cooling stations, pre-mixed compounds, calculated fields. You do this every time? Werner says yes. keep doing it. Because by now, Werner Kappel's methods aren't weird. They're doctrine. The war ends May 1945. Werner surrenders to American forces. 9 months POW camp. Released February 1946. Returns to Essen. The Krupp steelworks are destroyed. He works construction for 3 years. In 1949, he's hired by a machine tool manufacturer designing cooling systems for high-speed lathes. Turns out, understanding heat dissipation in machine guns translates perfectly to industrial equipment. He works there for 34 years, retires in 1983, never talks about the war unless asked directly. When asked, he says, "I was a machine gunner. I did my job." In 1987, a military historian researching the Anzio campaign finds Werner's name in divisional records, tracks him down, asks about May 17, 1944. Werner, now 65, walks the historian through it. The grease mixture, the thermal shock cooling, the hand cycling. The historian asks why he never wrote about it. Werner says, "Who would believe it?" The historian asks for the destroyed gun. Werner says it's probably melted down for scrap in 1945. The historian asks if he saved any documentation. Werner pulls out a small notebook from 1944, grimy, water-stained. Inside, temperature calculations, grease-to-water ratios, barrel life estimates. The historian asks to photograph it. Werner says yes. The notebook is now in the German military archive, Freiburg, catalog number BAMA-MSG 2/4382. Werner Kappel died November 12, 1998, in Essen. Heart failure, age 76. Buried at Parkfriedhof Cemetery, Section C, Row 14, Grave 23. The headstone reads his name, dates, and Gefreiter Wehrmacht, 1942 to 1945. No mention of Anzio, no mention of 18 minutes. His daughter attends with his 3 grandchildren. None of them knew the full story until the funeral, when a former squad mate travels from Munich to pay respects. He tells them, "Your father held when he should have died. He made machines do impossible things because he understood them better than the people who built them." There are 2 ways to tell this story. The legend version, a lone gunner held off 120 attackers for 18 minutes through superhuman courage and an indestructible weapon. The documented record, a mechanically inclined soldier applied unconventional lubrication techniques to extend barrel life by 137% during a sustained engagement. Both are true. Both are remarkable. But here's what matters. Werner Kappel didn't defy the laws of physics. He understood them better than the manual writers. The manual said, change the barrel at 250 rounds, because that's the safety margin, the point where 99% of guns will still function. Werner pushed past the safety margin because he knew the actual failure point was further out, and he knew how to manage the heat to reach it. The manual was written by engineers who never fired 2,800 rounds in 18 minutes. Werner did. The manual was theory. Werner was application. The story is about the space between what's authorized and what's possible. Every system has margins built in safety buffers, conservative estimates, cautious guidelines. Those margins exist for good reason. Most people should follow them. But there are moments when the margin is the difference between survival and death, and in those moments, you need someone who understands the system well enough to know where the real limits are. Werner Kappel understood machine guns the way his father understood lathes. Not as mysterious tools, but as collections of parts that behave predictably under stress if you know what to look for. On May 17th, 1944, the manual said his gun should fail. The gun said otherwise. Werner listened to the gun. Some stories don't fit on headstones. Some modifications don't fit in manuals. But 18 minutes at Anzio proves something the engineers never wrote down. The limits aren't where we think they are. They're where the metal actually fails, where the heat actually seizes, where the mechanism actually breaks. Everything before that is just margin. And margin, in the right hands, is opportunity. Werner Kappel's defining question was never, "What does the manual say?" It was always, "What will the machine actually do?" That's the difference between following doctrine and surviving. That's the difference between authorized and impossible.